Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing Ginyudance in the 15-minute pool on ICC. This is a decently rated player, 1824, and I'm playing the Caro-Kann because I haven't really played the Caro-Kann before. And I'm going to play c5 in this position, so he's playing the Caro-Kann Advance. c5 is an interesting move. The key test is for white to take on c5, but he played c3. This is what a lot of people do. But now black can argue that they have an improved version of the advanced French. Because you notice my bishop is uninhibited by a pawn on e6. So it's very probable I can get this pawn out. Or get this bishop out. Outside the pawn chain. So already, I mean, he played c3 very quickly. So already I think he's in unfamiliar territory. I hope to be able to capitalize on that. Bishop e3. That's a sensible move, because if he had played knight f3, it would be a good opportunity for me to pin him. So, bishop e3, I don't want to play bishop f5, I don't think, because of queen b3 hitting d5 and b7. So, I'm probably going to be taking on d4, or, I don't know, maybe playing queen b6, but queen b6 doesn't look right for some reason. It just doesn't seem like the best move. I'm gonna have to pause and think about this one. Maybe knight h6 to try to come to f5. Seems a little early to commit to knight h6 though. I could just play e6, but that's transposing into an advanced French, albeit an unusual version of the advanced French where he's played bishop e3. What else is there to do? If I can't develop my light square bishop, now, if I don't want to move this knight so early, what else do I have to do? I don't want to take on d4 just because I have nothing else planned, so f6 seems premature. I'm really not sure. e6 would be the normal thing to do. Let's go e6. I'm just not quite sure how to treat the position, and this seems like a rational move. I know it defeats the whole purpose of this line, to try to get the light square bishop out. But we'll see. Am I just down a tempo compared to a normal advanced French, though? I probably am. But his bishop's not so optimally placed, so maybe it's okay. That's what I'll tell myself. Knight d2. We'll go knight h6. We'll try to bring this knight to f5. I would expect him to play bishop d3 so he can exchange his light square bishop for my knight when it lands there. Yeah. So what if I play queen b6 now? What is he going to do? I could take first and then play queen b6 as well. But let's do it this way. Let's play queen b6 right now. Weird. Bishop e3 just baffled me. And I was already spending a little time. I didn't really want to think about it more. I'm pretty sure e6 is not what I should have done. But it led to a position I was at least somewhat familiar with. So I'm just going to check this guy's stats. Peak rating of 2135 in the 15-minute pool, achieved a couple years ago. All other ratings, pretty healthy. Doesn't play much of any other time control. 5-minute rating of 1800. If he plays queen b3 here, I will play c4. And then he'll take on b6. I take with the a pawn, and I like the pressure that I will have against his a2 pawn. So this poses him some unique problems about how to defend d4 and also b2. It's debatable if I'm actually attacking d4. I mean, I have 3 attackers on it, and he only has 2 defenders. But if I were to try to win that pawn, so let's say c takes d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, he, at the moment, has queen a4 check, which is a trap that I do not want to fall into. So I think I'll be looking to play bishop d7 soon. And that would be a normal move in this line, just to cover the diagonal. Okay, so he's daring me to take on b2. Should I take him up on that offer? Ooh, I have knight g4 here too. Knight g4 is kind of a tasty move. Going after his dark square bishop. Huh. I could also play c4. Yeah, c4 and then go take the pawn on b2. Although I wonder if I play c4 if he can maybe sacrifice on c4, like his bishop, let's say. And then when I take back, play d5, and he'll be attacking my knight. It's getting a little complex. So my candidate moves are c4, knight g4, or queen takes b2. All are possible. Or maybe even just bishop d7. I like knight g4. I'm going to go ahead and do this. I expect he'll castle, but I think this is a better fate for my knight, getting his dark square bishop, than coming to f5 and letting him take and damaging my pawn structure. So even though this bishop looks like a big pawn, I think it's nice to have some pressure on it. And I still keep open the door for queen takes b2 or c4. I'm actually kind of thinking if he castles, I might play c4. And the bishop moves, let's say, to c2, and then I take on b2. And just hold this bishop hostage for now. Not take it until I'm prompted to. One benefit of having kept my bishop back, though, is that when I do take on b2 and he plays rook b1, my pawn on b7 will be protected. So that's convenient. Yeah, he should castle here, more than likely. Playing a move like h3 in this position for him would be a mistake, because he shouldn't force me to play a move that I'm going to play anyways, which is to take on e3 at some point. That move really surprises me, because by playing that, he's weakening his control over e5 pretty severely. I mean, bishop takes e5, bishop takes c5 just looks good. I could also throw in knight takes e3. Knight takes e3, he takes on b6, I take on d1. He takes back, let's say, with the king. And then I take on b6. That looks decent, but I think simply bishop takes c5 is even stronger. Yeah, I mean, how is he going to avoid losing a pawn, at least? My knight is loose here, but he can't do anything about that because this knight can't jump anywhere with tempo. Yeah, like that was not a tempo gaining move. So here I can just take on e5. Take on d4 is also possible. If I take on d4, though, he can play queen takes g4. So I'll take on e5 with this knight. So I've netted a pawn. This is good. He can play knight b3. He can move his light square bishop. If he moves the light square bishop, though, I might even take on d4 and be really greedy. I think that would be fine. Yeah, I'm just pretty surprised by his decision. Castling's fine here. So would be bishop d7, but I'm just going to castle. If he takes with the bishop, I'll take with the pawn, and maybe I can pop my bishop out to a6, and d3 will be weak in his position. Okay. Yeah, let's just go queen back to b6. Queen e2 might be an option for him. Queen h5, kind of aggressive. So if I take on d4, he takes with his knight. Anything doing there? Not especially. Might just play knight g6. Yeah, I think knight g6 is okay. I didn't have to move my knight, because if he had captured on c6, I could take with my knight. But somehow this move feels right. Maybe I can play e5 too and open up an avenue for my bishop to come out. Okay, I thought he might play that move. And I was thinking I was going to take on d4 against that. Note that I can't move my knight now because he would mate me on h7. But I can take on d4 here. And I think it's pretty good. If he takes with the knight, I have queen takes b2. So if he takes with the pawn, I'm thinking a5 now. Or check first. Maybe check first and then play a5. Yeah, check is really good.
Check.
You know why? Because if king e2, I have knight f4. Forking the king and queen. So check is awkward for him. He has to play king f1 or king d1, neither of which looks great. Or knight d2, which also looked pretty bad. So now I kind of just want to play a5. This is a knight on a square that we've talked about before that can get chased away by rook pawns pretty easily. So a5, a4, and I'm trying to get at b2. That's the whole plan. Oh, and also d4. If this knight is forced to move, d4 becomes weak. Okay, so this game is going exceedingly well so far after that kind of opening quandary I had with him playing bishop e3 on move 5. Yeah, he can't prevent the loss of more material here. One of those pawns is going to fall. And his coordination is poor as well. His rooks aren't connected, doesn't have a king set attack. Yeah, it's essentially losing for him. I still haven't developed my light square bishop yet, but I'm not concerned about that because of the strength of this a5, a4 idea. Originally, I hadn't developed it because I was hoping to be able to capture on c6 should he have taken their roundabout move, wherever it was that he played bishop b5, so like roundabout move 12. So with this move, maybe he's planning to go to d2. He's going to try to maybe play knight d2 to over to f3, I think is the plan. Here's a situation where I might not play a4 because I know he's anticipating a4. So maybe I can avoid playing it for now and just play something useful like bishop d7. It's kind of extravagant, though. I don't know that I really want to mess with that approach. Still, though, it's kind of tempting. Yeah, maybe I'll go bishop b5 or bishop d7, try to come to b5. If I go bishop d7, it gives him a chance to play knight c5, though. Yeah, I shouldn't give him that opportunity. Yeah, there's nothing inherently bad about this move. It's not going to allow him that much counterplay. Take knight f3, queen f6, let's say. If knight g5, I have just h6, I think is fine. So yeah, let's just take this. And come back here. This position's totally fine. Yeah, just h6. Okay, so he's hoping I take so he can take with his h-pawn and get an attack down the file, but I think I can just play knight f4 here. Knight f4, bishop h7. So am I concerned? Don't think so. Oh, no concerns. Let's do it. Knight h7 would be a issue if he had time to do it, but he doesn't.
Check.
Oops, we got to go here. And this is very tenuous for him, needless to say. But I'm still not really going to take his knight. Like, if he plays queen f3, I wouldn't take on g5, because he takes and then his rook joins the attack. So I'm just going to let him sit there with his knight on g5 and his bishop on h7. And I'm going to complete my development. Like, after queen f3, I think I'll just play bishop d7. Looks good. Yeah, I don't see anything he can do to hurt me here. Now I can try to go bishop b5 check, and then I'll be threatening bishop e2 or maybe knight e2. Okay, I don't think he sees the plan that I have here.
Check.
So I'll give this check. Wow, I went to the center. I can still play bishop e2 against that. Just checking to see if there's anything better. No, I think bishop e2 is plenty good. There's queen e5. Oh yeah, I can play queen e5 too. I forgot about that move until now. Queen e5, and if queen e3, knight takes g2 is over. If he plays king d2, I can take on b2. Okay, that looks really strong. Take on b2, he goes king e1. Ah, then I have knight takes g2. Uh-huh. Oh, he resigned. Okay. Yeah, I think just to demonstrate this line, I was going to play check. I just saw this line right at the end. Here, take, here, and then
check.
Take. That's a nice way to end it. Queen takes is forced, and then queen e2 mate. So there's other ways to win, but I guess he could play bishop c2 here, but yeah, this is losing. Rook c8 or something. Okay, let's have a look from the beginning. So Caro-Kann, where bishop f5 is the main move in this position against the advanced variation. No doubt it's the most sound move. c5 is a really interesting idea. On the surface, it appears that black has lost his mind because he's playing like a beginner move, moving a pawn for the second time in the span of 3 moves. And it also allows white to take the pawn if they want. But if he takes, black usually plays e6 and attacks this. And black's hope is that white's center, which is now like disconnected, becomes too much for him to be able to defend. Too difficult. So like after bishop e3, I think knight c6 is the move. White can pin black's knight with this, but then I believe bishop d7 is playable. A lot of times black will play knight ge7 and try to come to f5 or knight h6 and just really bring about a lot of pressure on e5 and c5, queen c7 and such. I've never played this line from the black side, but that's the extent of my knowledge of it. I've seen some nice games. I have played this line from the white side before, because I used to play the advanced French when I was, or the advanced Caro-Kann when I was playing a lot of e4, and occasionally I'd run into c5. Keith Arkell, the English Grandmaster Keith Arkell, is a big expert on this line, if you guys are looking for more info on it. In fact, it'd probably behoove me to check his games in the database to see what he does in this position. Because knight c6, I mean, that has to be the move. What else would it be? But I don't know what to do after bishop e3. I really don't. Because e6 can't be the best move. I just played it because I'd already been thinking for a little bit. I didn't want to spend more than a couple minutes on this decision. It's so early in the game. And I just didn't see anything super appetizing here. I'd love to get the light square bishop outside the chain, like I said, but I'm a little worried about queen b3. Rightly or not rightly, I don't know if queen b3 is the move to consider, but it looks a little scary. Like b7's hanging, and if I try to defend it like that, I lose the d5 pawn. So let's just check with the engine. Probably this is a situation where the database, like in ChessBase, for instance, would be much more interesting to look at than the engine eval. But still, the engine can reveal a thing or two. So it says knight h6 and try to come to f5. I just wasn't sure if I was justified in doing this so early, accepting double isolated h-pawns, but the engine seems to think I have good play. He does have to waste 2 tempos doing that, bishop e3, and then take on h6. So, yeah, okay. Knight h6 probably is the move. So, I played e6. He went knight d2. And now I played knight h6. I think bishop d3 is fine. So he's preparing to take my knight should it land on f5. Maybe here he needs a better move. Knight e2 I'm not so sold on. Although knight e2 would have been probably fine if on this move he had just castled. Or played even a move like rook b1, but probably castling. I really, really dislike his d takes c5 move. I think that move essentially lost him the game. Because it loses e5. He's going to lose e5 in the span of the next move or two. So let's see what the engine thinks about knight e2 and whether it's a good idea. It says rook b1, just defend the b pawn. Okay, it likes knight g4. It likes what I did. c4 was a little tempting, but he does have this option, which I pointed out during the game. And if I take him back d5 and he rips open the center, and he's going to regain his material by taking on c6. Queen takes b2 I was thinking more seriously about. I just wasn't entirely sure how to evaluate it. Oh, knight b3. Yeah, I have to watch out for my queen getting trapped. So knight b3 is kind of clever because now he's threatening bishop c1. My queen has no flight squares. So I have to bail with this move. Now take on c5. It's kind of like an erratic position. My queen is still suffering from a lack of squares. It's sidelined on the edge of the board there. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't play queen takes b2. I'm happy with knight g4. I really think he should just castle here. Let's see. Castling also has its problems. Oh, that's an interesting line. Knight takes e3, f takes e3, take on d4. Now, if he were to take back with this pawn, then knight takes e5 works because of the pin against the king on g1. So he would have to take this way, but then I have this move anyways. Wow, that's nice. And you guys might see why. If he takes, I can take on e3. Check. It's a fork. Once he addresses the check, then I can take his bishop. Yeah, I definitely didn't see that during the game. So castling is bad for that reason. Wow, that's a cool line. Take, take, take here. And no matter which way he recaptures, knight takes e5. So his best bet, according to Stockfish, is bishop f4. Move the dark square bishop. And if I try to take and then grab on d4, he takes and then it looks bad for him because this is hanging and I'm also threatening queen takes f2 mate. Check. But he plays bishop b5 check. Let's say I get out of the check. Let's just say I play king d8, but then my knight is hanging. That's one thing about that knight g4 move. When I played that move, I had to be aware of the loose nature of that knight. Undefended pieces. Okay, bishop f4 would have been tricky. There's a lot of tactical nuances to digest, though. So he took on c5. I took back with the bishop. Yeah. And I think it's a big problem for him now. e5 is just dropping off. And then he has no center pawns. This is sometimes what can happen in the French. Black ends up with more center pawns than white. Castles is fine. I think he was already kind of in desperation mode. As I've seen against players in the pool in the past, like when they start losing, it's just there seems to be this tendency to try to lash out and do something about it versus playing the position slowly. It's easier for me to say that because I'm the side with the extra pawn in the much better position here, but I mean, he should just castle and try to proceed as normally as possible. It's not like he's going to fail to adjust his strategy, but he really should castle, get coordinated. Queen h5 seems like kind of like a coffee house move. I don't know. What did I play? Knight g6? Yeah. The immediate capture on d4 is also indicated by the computer. And then after knight takes, then play knight g6. And I'd be threatening a6. This point is weak. e5, knight f4 is an idea. So yeah, I could see why that's good as well. So knight g6, he dropped the bishop back. I took. and inserted this
Check.
check. This is really annoying for him. Just doesn't have a good way to deal with the check. Like king e2 trying to connect the rooks just loses on the
Check.
spot to knight f4 with the fork. Knight d2 gives me a choice of like which pawn I want to take. And that only leaves like what he played in the game, king f1 or king d1. So king f1. Yep, and this is a real common idea. So again, when you have knights on b3, b6, g6, or g3, they often get chased away by rook pawns. This is a good positional device to know. So it's just not a good square for this knight to be on. And that knight is the only thing preventing me from winning the d4 or the b2 pawns. So a5 is, yeah, nearly lights out. I probably shouldn't have second-guessed myself really right here. What did I spend? A little over a minute deciding, like, well, do I want to play a4? Do I want to just play bishop d7? Both moves are good. This is like one bad habit creeping in. It's like, sometimes I'm not satisfied. Like, I want even more. It's a good quality and a bad quality because, like, bishop d7 might be clever, and it's still a good move, but it's not necessary. a4 is what I set out to do with that a5 move. There's no reason not to play it. Like, this counterplay that he gets is totally insufficient, so... Yeah, knight g5 is just a shot in the dark. h6. It's really tough to attack a fortified king when you're just using your pieces. You know, he's attacking with 2 minor pieces and his queen, but none of them are within striking distance. He can't, like, land a punch against my position. He really needs pawn backup. I mean, I can't blame him. Like, he hasn't really been able to bring up his pawns, but a move like knight g5 is not going to succeed here. And he played it instantly. So, in his defense, though, the position is losing. So h6, he's tries the old fishing pole idea. And for those who don't know what that is, if I were to take here, then he can take this way, and now there's a rook-queen battery on the h-file. And, yeah, I'm just getting mated or losing my queen. Or both. So, didn't want to take that knight. Fortunately, I have this move.
Check.
Check. Queen f3. Yep, and just bishop d7, trying to get the bishop here. He could play bishop d3 to cover that, but yeah, I can just take. I think that's probably what I would have done. Although he can go queen takes d3, and he is threatening mate. And I might have to play g6. I'm up 2 pawns, but maybe there's something even better here. Computer thinks rook fc8 is a good move. Nah, I'm pretty sure I would have just captured on d3, got rid of that bishop. Then I don't have to ever worry about knight h7 happening. So I'm pretty sure I would capture and do a move like that. Yeah. Yeah, and as played, there's that nice checkmate that I didn't get a chance to execute, but I would have.
Check.
Check. And then here, and then take.
Check.
And if his king comes back, knight takes g2.
Check.
With the mate on e2.
Checkmate.
All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that Caro-Kann game. And please let me know if you have any feedback. You can leave it in the comments. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll be back tomorrow with another video. Bye.